I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, Arnold.
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
Let's talk about the NABBA Mr. Universe, which at the time was probably, well, I guess the Mr. Olympia and that one were probably getting close, but that had the reputation, started in 1950, and it was like that was the one where all the champions went to. So I think 1970 was probably one of the best years for the NABBA Universe.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, the way it worked was that for many years, anyone who won the AU Mr. America, you know, got a free ticket and invitation to go to the NABBA universe. I mean, that's why most of them competed.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is true. The NABBA Mr. was back then, people don't remember or weren't old enough, was very prestigious. It was, you know, everybody knew who the IFBB Mr. Universe was back then.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I know that they still hold it somewhere, but honestly, if you said to me, if you put a gun to my head and said, name the last 5 NABBA universes, I'd say, pull the trigger, because I have no idea.
I wouldn't know the last 10.
I mean, seriously, because first of all, I don't look at magazines anymore. The ones that exist, I haven't looked at it. I don't remember the last time I opened a bodybuilding magazine. Second thing is, I don't even see pictures of it online.
Yeah, I don't think it's covered at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, where's the coverage? There's no coverage. Nobody knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how good the guys are, but like you said, the reason it had that reputation was some of the greatest bodybuilders: Bill Pearl, Steve Reeves, Reg Park, John Grimmick. I mean, these were the greats. They won the NABBA universe.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't have that kind of prestige. I don't want to put anyone down, but the guys competing today, I think, are more or less like local British bodybuilders. Yeah. You know, they might be great. I don't know. I haven't seen them, but they don't have the kind of reputation and name that the guys had years ago who competed in that. So like Arnold, Frank, you know, Chris, Borko, you could go on and on. The greatest bodybuilders of the day competed in the NABBA unit. The 70 was a really good show. Yeah. I believe, wasn't that the year that Frank Zane also won the Miss Bikini?
Yeah, she won the Miss Universe or whatever they called it, yeah.
Yeah, because they have a famous shot of Frank won the amateur, you know, Arnold won the pro, and she won this, I don't know what they call it, Miss Bikini. Yeah. And they're both holding her up. You know, there's a famous photo there, you know. And, right. I remember there was one woman who won, I can't remember her name. One of them, she had such a shapely body. I was very attracted to her. You know, she was a British woman. She won right about a year or two later. Okay. And Arnold knew her. And I asked Arnold about it. I said, Arnold, that girl's, my God, she's gorgeous. I mean, she looks, what a body she has. That curves. I said. So Arnold went into a whole thing about a half hour telling me of the great sex he had with her. He described everything he did with her, and I started to get so freaking jealous. I was like, damn it, Arnold! You know, like you know.
Yeah, he had to rub it in for sure. Huh?
I remember that. You know, I'm sure it was true. You know, because I just saw many photos of her standing with her, and I'm sure, knowing how Arnold was, I'm sure he came on to her.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She was.
Let's talk about that show. In the short class, in the amateur, Chris Dickerson, who was Mr. America, went over, like you said, Jerry, all the Mr. Americas would go over. So he beat out Franco, and that was a little controversial. You know, looking at the pictures, I could see why Franco was mad about that, because he was much more muscular, much more ripped than Chris. But Chris had more of the symmetry, the shape, you know, what they're looking for. So, yeah.
Well, again, you can explain that. I agree with you. Franco was much thicker. Yeah. Much bigger back, you know, more separation. Similarly to Chris, they both had kind of a weak arm development, but Chris had that complete package of symmetry and proportion. See, the problem with Franco all through his career was it was symmetry. His legs never really matched his upper body. In fact, Artie Zeller, the famous physique photographer, he called Franco Mr. Potato Head because, in other words, because Franco Franco had all his muscle in the upper body. In other words, and this is even before he had the famous accident with the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I mean, Franco's legs were passable, but not great. You know what I'm saying? So, and the way his body looked is that I remember when Arnold first told me about Franco, I had only seen photos of him, and I said to Arnold was telling me how he was going to get Joe Weider to bring him over to the United States. And I said, well, Arnold, he looks about the same size as you. And Arnold started laughing. I said, what's so funny? He said, and Franco's like a little guy. He's like 5'3". I said, damn, his upper body, how does he, I mean, his upper body looks like he's like 6'2".
Yeah.
And that's what I discovered when I met Franco. His upper body was, he had the muscle of a guy much bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately, his legs didn't match that, so his symmetry and proportion were off. And the way they judged at the NABBA show, this is an important point, was overall appearance.
Yeah.
In other words, symmetry and proportion, as I said earlier, was paramount in the judging in London.
Yeah.
In other words, this is why Bill Pearl won so many times, because he also had that. Bill Pearl was never really ripped. He had great abs.
Yeah.
But Bill Pearl, I don't remember seeing any photo of Bill where his legs could be called cut and defined, not once.
Yeah.
But he had everything. He had a complete physique. Everything was in proportion. So he won, I think 4 NABBA Universe.
4, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that explains why. Now, if this was an IFBB show, Franco might easily have beaten Chris.
Right.
Because the IFBB, they were looking for the muscle. They were willing to overlook the symmetry. The guy who had the more, let's say, showy physique would win. So in an IFBB show, Franco would have won that year.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's a kind of a pleasant surprise or pleasant change of pace. How the NABBA judges used to do it, where they would judge according to the old bodybuilding standards, like the Greeks. You know,
Exactly.
They looked at the symmetry, they looked at the shape, and that's a nice change from what happens today.
Well, I was indoctrinated in that when I first began bodybuilding. I always thought he's supposed to have a complete physique.
Yeah.
You know, they used to call it head to toe body. In other words, all the body parts should be in proportion. I always geared my training to that. You know, if a particular body part was getting out, I would try and train a little harder, you know. So, you know, I mean, somewhere along the line that was abandoned now, where they have these, you know, guys with freaky arms and, you know, underdeveloped chest and, you know.
And the emphasis just on hardness, on graininess, hardness, you know, over symmetry and shape.
Right. Oh, you got, I mean, as great as a guy like Dorian Yates is, for example, who won, I believe, 6 Mr. Olympia contests.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, towards the end, his proportions and symmetry were, to me, awful.
Yeah.
Not awful. I mean, he was still hard, but I mean, in one show he had this bicep practically on his shoulder. I was at that show, and he was posing next to Nasser El Sabadi. I was right 4 feet away from them backstage, and I was looking at them from the side, and I remember noticing that Nasser's legs from the side looked twice as big as Dorian's.
Yeah.
Because he had a full leg bicep, had full leg. Dorian had like no leg biceps at the show. I mean, but of course, Dorian had those humongous calves.
Yeah.
So, see, it was almost like a trick. Like Dorian's calves were so big that you almost didn't notice that his legs were out of proportion. You know, you just like it was like with Chris. Your eyes would look, oh, look at that guy's calves, my God, and you wouldn't even notice that his leg biceps were below par. You know, but you know his back, you know, didn't look right, even though he had this wide back. His symmetry and proportions were off. So, like if I were a judge, I would have given it to Nasser.
Yeah.
With that, you had everything. I mean, he was big. You might say he was too big, but he was in shape, and he had nice symmetry and proportion. That's what I believe in. And like you say, that was the judging standard at the NABBA Universe.
Yeah, that's why Chris Dickerson did well. Frank Zane did well there. Bill Pearl, like you said, he did really well there.
Yeah, if you look at the guys that won, even some of the lesser-known guys, like the British guys that won, like Len Sell, and another guy, can't remember his name. He had a beard. Even go back as far as Mickey Hargitay.
Yeah.
You know, the father of the actress on Law and Order, Mariska. That's her dad. You know, he's married to Jane Mansfield. I mean, he won it in 55 with a build that today would be considered a swimmer's physique.
Right.
You know, but if you look at photos for the day, he had all the body parts, just like they like in London. everything was in proportion.
Yeah.
Wasn't big, but his shoulders, his calves, his leg, everything was in proportion. That's why he won. And the proof of the pudding, Mickey never won a Mr. America, but he won a Miss Universe.
Yeah. Well, I remember even I think it was 76 when Bertil Fox went in, and Bertil Fox was really young, but he was really massive.
Yeah.
And he got third behind Kozo Suto. Remember Kozo Suto from Japan?
I remember that, the Japanese guy, yeah.
And, I'm sorry, Bertil, I think, got second. Kozo Suto won, and Dale Adrian was in it, Mr. America. But there's no way in an IFBB contest Kozo Suto would beat Bertil Fox.
No. Kozo Suto had a really nice, very deep abs.
Yeah.
But, not big anywhere, really. But he had, he had almost like a Chris Dickerson physique, and, because he had, everything was completely symmetrical and proportionate. So,
or like Serge Dubray. He looked a lot like Serge Dubray, too.
Yeah, he had those, he did those tricep poses, where he could do, look like a Serge Dubray. But in other words, that's what they liked in London. That's why he beat a guy like a monster, like Bertil Fox.
Yeah.
Any IFBB show, Bertil would have crushed him like a bug.
Right.
This guy would have no chance of beating Bertil.
Yeah.
Even though Bertil was famous for his lack of posing ability.
Yeah.
Bertil had these fantastic arms. He used to do a double bicep like this.
Yeah, right. I know.
Do it like this. In other words, if he did it like this, his arms would be literally twice as big. He did it like this. Arnold spent once 2 hours trying to show him how to pose.
Really?
And went out and did the same bad poses. It went in one ear and out the other. Yeah.
Although Bertil did win the NABBA Universe for a couple years after that. Yeah.
Well, he had some poses, John, if you remember, nobody could duplicate.
Yeah, that most muscular.
Just like Sergio owned this pose. Nobody could top Sergio with this pose, right? Bertil had this pose.
Yeah.
With arms down like that, nobody in the world, nobody in the world could touch him. His arms look like, I told you the famous story of when I came into Gold's on 2nd Street and Bertil was getting ready for a photo session. They used to have these famous bolsa with dumbbells that weighed 1 pound, but they looked like they weighed 120. And I was doing these curls with dumbbells, and I thought it was the bolsa because he was going like this.
Right.
It's easy. I'm not exaggerating, like this. He was warming up for the photos, and I leaned over and I said to the photographer, I said, hey, those balsa wood things look real at first. He says, Jerry, they're not balsa wood. Listen. And I heard the iron clanking, and my mouth dropped. They were 90-pound dumbbells. 90-pound dumbbells. And he was going like this. I said, my God, what arm strength this guy had.
Wow.
But he had those tree trunk arms,
Yeah.
I couldn't even roll a 90-pound dumbbell. Forget about curling.
Well, in that contest then, in the medium class, Frank Zane wins. That was the first time I think Frank entered the NABBA Universe, and he won the medium class and the overall. He beat out Albert Beckles, so that was a good class too.
That was the year I was living next door to Frank Zane in Santa Monica.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, on Bay Street in Santa Monica. He was in apartment 11, and I was in apartment 12, right next door.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember when he went over. To London. I remember that.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
I still remember that. Yeah. He came back with that, that kind of trophy they gave with the little.
Like a bowl or something, right? Like a cup or something?
Yeah, I think it might have been a cup, or there was another one that had it looked like how to describe it? Pillars, it looked like little pillars around something,
Okay.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, maybe that was for the pro show, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But that was one of the trophies that they give. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Frank Richards from England won the tall class.
Yeah, Frank,
He was a good bodybuilder. Yeah. But Frank Zane won the overall.
Yeah. Frank was the hardest guy in the show. That's why he won.
Yeah,
he was in really good shape. He was still teaching too at the time.
Really?
He was teaching junior high school, only maybe a mile away from where he lived, Mark Twain Junior.
Yeah.
He used to teach mathematics.
I think he did that all the way up until 77, right? When he won his first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I used to see him go to work. He'd wear like a sport jacket, tie. He'd have glasses on.
Yeah.
He looked like just an athletic guy. You'd never know this was Mr. Universe.
Right.
Yeah. Just like almost like it reminded me of like Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
How Clark Kent would wear the glasses and nobody would realize he's Superman.
Right.
Frank Zane would put on the mild-mannered teacher.
Yeah.
So super bodybuilder.
So then the pro division Boyer Co won the short class. They had a short class and a tall class, so Boyer won the short class. He didn't really have much competition. And then Arnold won the tall class over Reg Park and Dave Draper. So that was a great lineup. Talk about some legends in there, huh?
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Reg got second, but a lot of people thought Dave Draper could have got second.
Yeah.
I think Reg was like 42 at that time.
Yeah, Reg was 42, and I heard different stories. I mean, one story was that Arnold felt a little bad about having to compete against Reg, who was his mentor. That was his bodybuilding idol. Other stories say that, and again, I don't know if this is true, that Arnold was kind of being a little sarcastic to Reg at the show.
Yeah, I heard he tried to psych him out too.
Yeah, like something to the order of like, well, Reg, you were great in your day, but now it's my chance. So congratulations on whatever you're going to place, but you have no chance of beating, that kind of stuff.
Well, you got Arnold at 23 and Reg is 42, and I think Reg was natural, right? He was a natural bodybuilder.
He was natural. I get in arguments with people about that, by the way, because in fact, just the other day on Facebook, I got in a little thing with a guy who was saying that he said something about to think that Steve Reeves didn't take steroids is really you're pretty naive to believe that. In fact, I know for a fact that Steve Reeves was taking steroids in the 30s.
Yeah, 30s.
So I said, hey, Dumbo, Steve Reeves was born in 1928, right? Second of all, the testosterone didn't even become available at all. It was isolated in 35, and it didn't become available until around 1940. And second of all, where's your evidence that Steve Reeves, did you see him? Did you see him inject? Otherwise, shut your fucking mouth. Unless you know what I mean? I like these guys, these like millennial guys that weren't even born when Steve Reeves was around, and they're insisting, they look at a guy, his physique, and Steve Reeves had a beautiful physique. And I think people off the street would admire Steve Reeves' physique. And that's how great the guy was, how beautiful his body was. And yet, they look at this guy, well, how could you develop a body like that without drugs? They're training and genetics.
Yeah.
Training and genetics, that's what it's called. And Steve Reeves was very, he trained hard, he had good. And the same with Reg Park. I knew Reg Park very well. I used to have a lot of conversations with Reg. Reg was very adamantly against steroids. He hated them. He never used them. Reg used to, the way Reg got big was he's very heavy. I mean, he was one of the first bodybuilders to bench press 500 pounds.
He
lifted very heavy weights, heavy squats, and he also used to, he did that thing with, remember the bulking up stuff?
Yeah.
Reg used to bulk up and get real heavy and then trim down. Yeah. That's the technique. And he used to what they call a 5x5 system to get big. He'd do 5 sets of 5 reps of a major exercise like squats and bent over rows. That was his size building routine.
Yeah.
But see, John, it pisses me off personally when these guys who don't even know these men, who aren't around to defend themselves anymore, when they accuse them of using steroids, because these punks who say that don't have the genetics or aren't willing to work hard enough to build some muscle because they look like crap. Rather than give these guys the credit, the old timers, give them the credit they deserve. He took steroids. I know he took steroids. Yeah, shut up. Unless you have proof. And I even say that today, believe it or not. And people call me crazy. They'll say, well, don't you think this guy uses steroids? Look at him. I'll give you an example. This guy, Mike O'Hearn. I know Mike O'Hearn. He's, I don't say he's a close friend, but I know him. We're friendly. People say, John, Jerry, Mike O'Hearn, he's in his 50s. He's definitely on a ton of steroids. I mean, look at the man. He looks better than he did when he's 25. Come on. My position is, I don't know. How could you say that, Jerry? Look at that. Because I don't know. I said he could be what they call an outlier. Maybe he's so freaky. And I know one thing about Mike. He's very, very strong.
Yeah.
He's also powerful. I watched him train. The guy is humongously strong.
Yeah.
And he's still strong in his 50s.
Yeah.
I said, he could just be a freak of nature. And I'm not ruling out maybe he does take the drugs. My point is, I don't know for sure. So I'm not going to make a definitive statement that Mike O'Hearn uses a lot because I don't know.
Yeah.
If he says I don't use them, I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to argue with it. If the other people want to yell and scream, because Mike O'Hearn looks 1,000 times better than them. They're 20 years old. This 55, whatever his year man, makes them look like garbage. That's their problem. I'm not going to say anything. That's my. I'll say that about any of them. And anybody, if I'm still writing for the magazines, and one of these pro bodybuilders came up to me, who looks like he's just, on a boatload of drugs. Oh, Jerry, I'm natural. I wouldn't argue with him. Yeah. I would not say, hey, come on, man. Listen, I've been around for you. What are you? You're going to say this to my face? Look at you. You got veins on top of veins. You're going to tell me that you're natural? Really? You're going to insult my intelligence? I don't say that. I just, okay. I won't, if that's the way I mean, I'll let other people develop their own opinions. I'm not taking an opinion on it. Now, if I see the guy using drugs, that's what I'm saying. If I see Mike O'Hearn inject growth hormone or whatever, I'll say, yeah, he uses drugs. I saw him use it. I saw Arnold use drugs. I saw Frank Zane use. I saw the man use drugs. Yeah. So I can say, yeah, he used drugs. Yeah. Because I saw it. Unless I see it, I feel I shouldn't say it. That's my feelings.
Right. Well, Steve Reeves was only, I think, like 215, right? At 6 foot.
Yeah, that's all.
How tall was Steve Reeves? 6'1", 6'2"?
He was just under 6'1".
Okay.
Yeah. And you look at the guy, there's nothing about his physique that says steroids.
No. Reg Park either. I mean, Reg Park was big, but he doesn't look freaky,
Oh, yeah, they don't have that freaky look, Yeah. I mean, from a scientific point of view, one giveaway of a guy using a lot of steroids, I know that this sounds crazy, but certain muscles in the body have more androgen receptors than others. And, steroids work, testosterone, anabolics, they work by interacting with androgen receptors. It turns out that one of the muscles in the body, one of the muscle groups in the body that has an abundance of androgen receptors is the trapezius muscle.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of the guys that use steroids have these gigantic trapezius that almost you could not develop with no matter how many shrugs you did. That's not a definitive way of looking at it, but it's something. When I first read that in the Science Journal, I started to look at the guy and say, I mean, you look at. I remember Ronnie Coleman. His traps were so big, it looked like he had like was eating up his head. He had big, giant traps sticking out.
Right.
I mean, so that's just one way. But
rear deltoids too, right, Jerry?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Rear delts too.
I just talked to. I helped a guy last week with his posing. This guy was a natural competitor. He looks really good.
Yeah.
About a couple inches taller than me. He's probably 5'10", 173, but he looks fantastic.
Right.
So he was in a men's physique contest at the Team Universe, which was not drug tested, I think.
Okay.
And he said, man, I got to work on my rear delts. These guys who placed ahead of me, they got huge rear delts. And I said, well, that's one of the receptor sites for steroids. So usually he goes, oh, I didn't know that. He goes, I thought I just had weak rear delts.
No, you're right. No, the rear delts will be bigger.
Yeah.
To use steroids. Of course, some guys take it too far. I think Nasser, who I mentioned earlier, Nasser wasn't satisfied enough with his rear delts he got from the drugs, so he decided to inject the
Synthol.
What do they call it? Synthol into the rear delt. He showed up one contest with looked like.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, and some of these guys, they don't understand. These are supposed to be slight enhancements. If you take too much, you start to look like those guys down in South America.
Right.
Where they have these arms that look like giant hands.
They look terrible.
But they have little skinny forearms, right? And then they have also the gigantic trapezius with the little skinny necks that don't have. I mean, look, I shouldn't be laughing because these guys obviously have mental problems, I can't help it. I always burst out laughing when I see these guys.
Yeah.
They think they're so impressive. They go like this, and they're flexing. There's nothing there. There's no separation. It looks like a big thing. What is it? A big chunk of ham or something.
Right. Well, in that contest, Arnold, this was probably the best Arnold of his career up until that point, 1970, because he made remarkable improvement from you look at 68, 69, 70. He was much bigger, I thought, and really cut. When I look at those pictures of Arnold in a lineup with him and Reg Park and Dave Draper, I think he's way ahead of everybody.
Right. Well, this is 1970 was a turning point for Arnold, where his physique, you'd say, really started to mature.
Yeah.
Because he got rid of that earlier.
He's only 23.
Yeah, he's only 23, but he started to kind of adopt, change his diet around. He was lying in the sun a lot. losing, and all that. And he got that kind of physique maturity look. He started to get harder and harder. But 1970 was the turning point year for him. That's when his physique really became, let's say, more finished.
Yeah.
And from there it got better and better, if you remember. Except if you want to like use the exception of 1980, where it was a little bit step backwards.
Yeah. What do you mean?
It was not Arnold at his best, but some people argue that Arnold was still good enough to win. And that's a debatable issue.
Yeah.
The famous 80 Olympia. I don't know how you feel about that, but I look at photos and Arnold was definitely not at his best, but especially his legs.
Yeah, his legs were way down.
I mean, if Arnold didn't win, ironically, the guy who would have won would be Chris Dickerson again.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, when you think about it, Chris was more symmetrical in proportion, even though he's much smaller than Arnold.
Right.
In other words, if you were judging strictly on the classic, let's say, delineations of a physique contest, Dickerson should have won.
Yeah.
He was in great shape. Everything was in proportion and symmetrical. Whereas Arnold's legs were completely out of balance.
Yeah.
I mean, he still had some definition. It's not that, but they just didn't have. He didn't have any sweep to his thigh. His calves still looked pretty big, and of course he still had those big biceps and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was just. I would say that was Arnold at about maybe 75% of his best.
Right.
At the 80 Olympia, yeah. But some people again say he was still good enough to win.
But in 70, he seemed like he was much bigger than 69. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
He was bigger, but he still had that finished look.
Yeah, he did. Well, he trained really hard. I told you Arnold's philosophy was after each contest, he felt that once you reached a certain level of development, you couldn't make extraordinary changes in your physique. In other words, let's say Arnold competed at 230, right? In other words, you couldn't go from 230 cut to 260 cut in 1 year. It just wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So his philosophy was to pick out a certain muscle group that might have been a little bit lagging and to train it extra hard. And he felt that the judges would actually notice that. Let's say forearms. Let's say he improved his forearms from 1 year to the next. He felt the judges would actually notice that, and it would create some sort of hypnotic effect where they say, Arnold's has really improved since last year, even though he was basically the same but had better forearms. That was Arnold's philosophy, believe it or not. That's what he did this year. And sometimes it would be an overall look. Like in 74, he figured he's competing against, was it Lou? Wasn't it Lou that year? Lou Ferrigno was.
Yeah, Lou.
He figured Lou's going to try and come in big. He'll come in big, but he's going to come in harder. He's going to come in harder than Lou could get. So he came in big and hard. That was his goal. Yeah. And he won. Yeah. See?
Right.
That's what he did that year. And it worked,
And in 69, he lost to Sergio. So I think he felt like maybe the guy's got to come in bigger for 70, right?
Right. Yeah. He knew he had to come in bigger. Yeah. But he also knew that he didn't want to slip into the physique he had before, the one that lost to Chet Yorton in 66, which was a big, bulky guy.
Or 68 when he lost to Frank Zane.
Right, exactly, right. That's a better example, where he didn't have the finish.
Yeah.
It was a tricky road to walk because he had to have more size, but he also had to retain or increase the finished look of hard definition, the winning look, in other words. And he did it.
Yeah, there's a picture of Arnold from that 70 NABBA universe where he's doing a front double bicep, sucking in the vacuum. Man, I think that's one of the best front double biceps I've ever seen. It looks unbelievable. Yeah. I remember being a kid and just looking at that picture all the time for inspiration, because I want to look like that. He just looks so huge.
I used to have a color poster of Arnold in that pose, and you might have seen that, the double arm pose like that. And it was just, I used to marvel at it because, this is many years ago, but today somebody would look at that photo and say it's photoshopped. Because you can't believe how big Arnold's arms were in that photo.
Yeah.
You just can't believe it. It looks, but there was no Photoshop then. This was the 70s. But his arms were so, it was also, like you said, he had the vacuum. His legs
were cut. It just looked like a perfect front double bicep,
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. I remember having, I don't know whether Arnold autographed it. I don't remember. I should have kept that damn thing. I don't know what happened to it. I lost it years ago.
Yeah.
No, but it was, Arnold had that look, yeah.
So that 70 was the year where I remember in reading Education of a Bodybuilder, where Arnold said he did the Triple Crown. He won 3 championships in 3 different organizations. So he won that NABBA Universe, then he won the AAU Mr. World, and then he won the IFBB Mr. Olympia.
That's right, yeah.
So he established himself as the king because he beat everybody in every organization. There was no doubt that he was the best bodybuilder in the world. Because I remember when he won the 67 Universe, after it was over, he found out that there was an IFBB Mr. Universe, and then there was a Mr. Olympia. And he's like, wow, there's like 3 Mr. Universes. I'm just one, you know.
Yeah.
And Bill Pro won the Pro, you know. So now he established himself as the winner in all these organizations.
Yeah. Well, when I first met Arnold, I remember him telling me that his plans were to win the NABBA Universe 6 times, you know. But I guess that changed in 70 when, you know, he realized that, you know, the Olympia was open for him.
Yeah.
And you know, the Olympia, I guess to him meant more prestige. You know, it was a pro show and this.
Well, I think Weider also stopped. Remember, because he won. This was his 5th one. Yeah.
Yeah. Weider had
he would have won 6 the next year, but Weider wouldn't let him go in.
That's right. Yeah. Remember the famous 71 when
Bill Pro.
He's going to go up against. Let me ask you, John. Who do you think would have won if Arnold came in, let's say, looking like he did in 70 or even a little bit better compared to Bill Pearl as he looked in 71? Who do you think would have won that year in 71?
I would pick Arnold. I think he had more definition. And he had better back, you know, better legs. Yeah.
I think so too, but I wonder about some sort of political thing, you know, because
Bill was really favored by the NABBA judges.
He's favored by the, and also, was it Frank Zane? Somebody told a story about how they had to turn around at certain angles.
Maybe Frank Zane said that,
and Bill Pearl refused to, you know, to turn to the required angle, and they let him get away with it. It's almost like, you know, and I think Frank or somebody said, it's almost like, you know, he had control of the judges, you know.
Because Frank won his class and Bill won his class, and they didn't compare them. And they just gave the overall to Bill. They didn't even compare them.
See, that's another indication that, you know. And again, Bill Pearl was my idol. I have nothing but respect for the guy. I'm not trying to put him down, but it makes you wonder in relation to Arnold and Bill Pearl, whether even if Arnold showed up with a better physique, maybe they would have given it to Bill Pearl anyway because of some sort of better word to political reason or something like that.
Right.
So because I agree with you. Arnold probably, if you went muscle for muscle, Arnold would have won.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure if it would have actually happened that way.
I know. It's interesting. It's one of those unanswered questions we'll always be asking, you know.
And Bill Pearl probably knew it too, which is why he wasn't afraid of Arnold showing up.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so.
You know, another contest that's not talked about from 1970 is the IFBB Mr. Universe, which was held in Yugoslavia, and Franco won that. Franco Columbu won that overall.
Yeah.
He didn't really have any competition. Ahmet Anulu from Turkey won the medium class.
Yeah.
And Karl Kanrath from Austria won the tall class.
Oh, yeah.
Franco won the overall.
Karl Kanrath, I'm friends with him on Facebook. He still works out. He's still pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it established Franco then as a pro probably in the IFBB because he won the Mr. Universe. So he was eligible for the Mr. Olympia then after that.
Yeah. For some reason, that contest had very little, even back then, this is when the magazines were really popular. I don't remember seeing more than 1 or 2 photos of that show.
Yeah, it's hard to find pictures of it. I look for pictures of it on the internet. It's hard to find.
It's like no publicity. Now, that guy you mentioned who got second, Anulu, I believe he competed. I'm not sure whether he won the NABBA Universe but I know he competed. He did win.
Tony Pearson, 1 year. Yeah,
because I know he competed several times. I once referred to him as a perennial NABBA Universe competitor in one of my articles.
Yeah, he had a long career. That guy had a long career.
He competed in a lot of the NABBA shows.
Yeah.
He had a nice physique, pretty muscular, too.
And he was doing the IFBB Universe for many years, too, in the 80s when he was older. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Earlier, Phil Williams was in it. I think he was in it that year.
I think I saw about a year ago somebody put a photo of him online, and he's still in good shape.
I saw that too.
See that?
Yeah,
he's still in. I like to see that. You know, I really like to see that.
Yeah.
I love to see the guys from years ago. You know that they're still like Tony Pearson. Those guys You know, they're still working out, and including Arnold. You know, they're still working out, and you know, they're still staying in shape. I like that. I find that very inspiring.
Oh yeah.
And on the other hand, from the other point of view, when I hear the guys are sick or something like Chris is, you know, having health problems, it kind of makes me feel bad. Or you know, or even worse, a guy like Chet dying. I have the opposite feeling. I feel awful when I see that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want everybody to stay in shape and be happy, you know?
Yeah. I guess Chris Dickerson's not doing well. I guess he's going to be hospitalized for the rest of his life. He'll be in that nursing home, I guess.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Gee, that's awful.
Yeah, it is. Especially when you look back and see these old pictures of them and remember how they used to be and how great they used to be. They were great champions and stuff. But I guess we all get older, and you never know what's going to happen when you get older, right?
Yeah, but you wonder what makes one guy continue to work out and be fairly healthy, and another guy gets sick enough to be in a nursing home. Is it a genetic thing or something that they might have done wrong along the line? You know, you wonder.
Right.
You know, I don't know. You know,
because we just had Bill Pearl this year turn 90.
90, yeah.
Yeah.
And you see the photo of him where?
Yeah, he looked fantastic.
The guy, he doesn't look 90 to me.
No, he looks 70.
The thing that I noticed about Bill, all right, he was sitting there wearing a shirt. He wasn't posing or anything.
No.
But he doesn't have that atrophied look that you'd expect from a 90-year-old.
No.
Most 90-year-olds, even if they're fairly healthy, there's no getting away. They tend to look atrophied. They're kind of old, fucking up and stuff, you know?
Right.
And the muscles just disappear, you know? But Bill still looks pretty big.
Yeah, he looks robust. He looks healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the rosy chin.
Right.
I'd say the guy looks like he's fucking, 220 pounds or crazy.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I heard that he has Parkinson's disease. I mean, but I hope the guy goes on and on.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, he's just a great guy and a terrific bodybuilder. I mean, he wasn't the most cut bodybuilder, but he certainly, to me, is one of the greatest ever because of his. He had everything. He had just a.
I think a lot of people feel the same way. And then we had Clint Eastwood turn 90 this year too.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood. Yeah. Did you ever have a chance to interview Bill Pearl, or is there any chance of you interview him, John? You think?
No, not on my show. I never interviewed him. I heard that he doesn't want to do interviews anymore. So.
Oh, okay. I bet you it's the Parkinson's probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's probably it. Yeah, it's too bad. But he could tell you some great stories. I bet.
Oh man, that's what I love to talk about the old guys with. About those old stories and get it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. I would have also liked you to interview. I only spoke to him once at Clarence Ross. He would have been a great interview.
Yeah.
The little bit he told me was interesting. Like when he told me that he felt that Steve Reeves had a better physique than him, it shocked me.
Yeah.
He beat Steve Reeves twice.
Right.
Reeves he says he called Steve Reeves. He said he used the word beautiful. He says, "Oh, I was muscular, but Steve Reeves had a beautiful physique." That's what he said.
Right.
I never forgot that. I said, "Wow, what a compliment from a guy who he beat. He actually beat him."
He beat Steve Reeves, right? At the Mr. Yeah.
I wish these guys' stories could be preserved. I mean, there's so many great stories.
Yeah.
And so many truths. Because, like I say, even without the steroid stuff, there's so much misconceptions about these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's best for the guys themselves to just speak and tell the truth.
Yeah.
Set the record straight. That's what I'd like to see.
Right.
And you're the guy to do it because you ask him the right questions.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, you ask him everything. I mean, when you go into how they got into it, started training, and how they train, this is what people want to know.
Right.
They want to know. They want to know this stuff. I know. I would have.
Yeah. I love hearing their real feelings about how they felt against this competitor or how they felt they looked.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. That's great. I mean, most of the guys you interview, I know. And yet, every time I listen to them, I learn stuff. I said, "Wow, Boyer did that? I didn't know that."
Right.
I always go,
right.
"Wow, I didn't know that."
Yeah.
I love about it. I always learn stuff about this. It's great.
You see the interview I did with Boyer and White Calendar at the same time?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I thought that was great, just because they hadn't seen each other in a long time. They got to reconnect.
Yeah. Roy Calendar, he's such a humble guy, isn't he, Roy?
Oh, he's such a great guy. Yeah.
I mean, this guy doesn't beat his own drum at all. I mean,
I think Roy's about 80 years old.
Is he that old?
I think so. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I also like the one you did with that Australian guy, Roger Walker.
Yeah. He's a straight shooter, isn't he?
I like the fact that he was so blunt. He didn't hold anything back.
He didn't hold anything back.
I mean, he just, that's the way Chet Yorton was.
Yeah.
Chet Yorton just, I'm talking to when he was sober, not when he would just tell you exactly what he thought.
Right.
He wouldn't hold anything back, no matter who it was.
Right.
And this guy, Roger Walker, was like that. I loved it. He's leaning back in the chair just saying, and I was cringing. Some of the things he was saying, I was cringing. I said, oh, my God, I can't believe he said that,
Right.
But I guess his attitude was, hey, who cares, What are they going to do to me?
Right.
Did
you hear how he was in the Marines when he was a young age? Wow, he's a tough guy.
He is a tough guy. Yeah, he strikes me as a guy you wouldn't want to mess with.
Right.
You get this guy mad. Even at his age, he'll knock your head right off.
Well, when we were talking about the 1980 Olympia, and Mensah went up to Arnold. Yeah. He said, "I just sat back." He goes, "I always like to see a good fight."
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
And he goes, "Damn, they broke it up." He goes, "I wanted to see a good fight."
Yeah, I know. I remember that. He said Ben Weed was standing there watching it. I remember.
Right.
John, did you ever interview John Torelli from Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's another good guy.
Yeah.
Another guy who, by the way, I think was a very underrated physique.
Yeah.
You look at photos of the guy, he had a great, another guy with beautiful symmetry and proportions.
Right.
And I said this to him. He's interviewed me. And
he interviewed me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And he got a little embarrassed almost because I was laying in eyes. John, I think you were just a fantastic, he looked a little, like, but there I am. I said, I'm just telling you the truth, how I feel. I said, you had a complete head-to-toe body. You had all the body. He said, I really appreciate it. But I meant it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't say that to people unless I mean it. It's like Franco never liked me because I never said that he was a great bodybuilder. He actually took it personal. I didn't say, I don't think he was a bad bodybuilder. Obviously, he had some great, but to me, he didn't have the symmetry and proportions, so he didn't have the kind of physique I liked. And I'm not going to go up to him and say, hey, Franco, you look fantastic. I don't do that. I said it to Arnold because I believed it with Arnold. Right. This is the way I've always been. I don't give false compliments,
Yeah.
In fact, I just happened to be on YouTube about a week ago, and I saw a video of you competing. I don't know whether it was the first Natural Universe. I can't remember. And I'm thinking, wow, I didn't know John was really good. Oh, seriously, I mean, I knew you were good, but I was impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, you had that look. You had that head-to-toe body, and your arms look gigantic, look great.
Right.
I said, I mean, in other words, I knew you were good, but I didn't know you were that good.
Right.
I saw that video, and I don't mean that as a put down. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. I just hadn't seen you in your prime, let's say.
Yeah. I feel the same way when I look at those videos. I'm like, wow, I didn't know I was that good either.
well, to a lesser extent, I look at it. There's a photo I have on Facebook. 16 years old, I'm flexing my arm, the side tricep. It looks like it's a 22-inch arm. Now I look at this little skinny toothpick arm. What the hell happened? Where's my triceps? Where did it go?
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? You just have to like you said, you got to do the best you can.
Right. Well, let's wrap up 1970 talking about that Mr. Olympia, which was also held with the Mr. America and the Mr. World. So that was, they used to have all those contests together back then in the 60s and early 70s.
Yeah.
So I think this was the first one. Were you at that show, Jerry? It was in New York again.
1970?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't at that one.
I think they moved it away from the Brooklyn Academy of Music and they moved it somewhere else.
No, I definitely wasn't not at that one.
Yeah. Because I read an article by Rick Wayne, and he said they were having problems with the Brooklyn Academy of Music because these guys were using oil and it was getting all over the curtains. So the Brooklyn Academy said, that's it. You can't hold it here anymore. So they had to hold it at, I think it was a town hall or something in New York. Yeah. So they had to move it to a different location. But I think they might have had the prejudging at a gym or something. I'm not really sure. And then they had the evening show at this town hall.
Yeah, probably, yeah. No, that I was still. I think I was in.
You were in California then.
Yeah, I didn't go to that one. Yeah, I was in California for that one. Yeah.
Well, the Mr. America that year was won by Mike Katz. So
yes.
He finally won this. Did you ever hear that story about? I read this in the magazines about Sergio showed up at the show. Now, Sergio won the 3 Mr. Olympias before that, 67 to 69. But then he lost that Mr. World contest to Arnold. He was pissed off about that. So then he shows up at the Olympia, and I heard the story. They're checking in all the competitors. All the Mr. America competitors are checking in. Eddie Giuliani was there, and Mike Katz, and a bunch of guys. And Sergio walks in with his manager, and the manager tells him Sergio wants to enter the Mr. America contest. And the promoter was Bud Parker, the same guy, Bud Parker. And he goes, what? And all the Mr. America guys go, what? Oh, my God, Sergio wants to go to Mr. America? So he said, yeah, he's an American citizen, and nothing would make his mother feel happier than winning Mr. America. And they said, he can't enter Mr. America. He's already Mr. Olympia 3 times,
Right.
So they said he's going to pull out of the contest if he doesn't compete.
Wow.
So they said, all right. So they ended up giving him an honorary Mr. America award. And then Mike Katz won the real Mr. America. But I haven't seen any pictures on stage with Sergio with the Mr. America trophy. But this is what I read in one of Rick Wayne's books.
It's probably true. I never heard that myself. I didn't know about that.
But I'm wondering if that probably hurt Sergio's chances of winning the Mr. Olympia at the same show, because he created all this problems,
Yeah.
like being difficult, and then he ends up losing the Olympia to Arnold that year.
Yeah, I wonder about that. But kind of like that story I told you about Warren Frederick, When I competed in one of my first bodybuilding shows was a novice contest called Mr. It was held at the Wagner Youth Center in Harlem. They called it the Mr. Wagner, if I remember correctly, or novice Mr. Wagner, something like that. And I was getting ready to, we're all backstage, we're all teenagers, I was, 15 or something? We're all teenagers. And all of a sudden I see this guy show up, and he looked familiar to me, and I'm thinking, who's he? And, and he suddenly strips down and I see this Warren Frederick. I mean, this guy was a pro bodybuilder for crying.
Yeah.
He'd already won like an American contest.
Yeah.
So I said to one of the other guys, I said, well, look at this. I guess he's guest posing. So then somebody says, no, he wants to enter. I said, wait a minute. He's going to enter a novice contest? He's Mr. America? You got to be. Hey, look, if he enters, I'm out of here. I'm not going to even stand next to the stage on this guy.
Right.
This guy makes us all look like we never touched a weight. Are you kidding me? Well, it turns out that the judges knew, they knew who he was, and they said, "Get out of here." They said, "No way." So,
I wonder why would I want to enter it?
I don't know. Somebody said he lived in the area and just decided to pop in and enter or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I'll never forget that. Looking at this guy, he had veins all over the place. I mean,
yeah, he was freaky. He was a big bodybuilder.
I mean, I was 15 years old. I mean, come on, Jeez, it would be like me trying to jump into Mr. Olympia at that time. They said, get your posing trunks and
right.
Get it. It was a funny thing. I don't understand the mentality of some of these guys,
Yeah. Well, let's talk also about the Mr. World that was held that night. That had some great guys. Franco was in it, Rick Wayne, and Dave Draper. So they each won their height classes.
Yeah.
And then they had to pose down between Franco, Rick Wayne, and Dave Draper. And so a lot of people thought Rick Wayne was going to win, or even Franco could have won.
Yeah.
But Dave Draper ended up winning.
Dave Draper won. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I guess he was bigger than those guys. Rick Wayne was quite a physique back then.
Yeah, he was in great shape. I saw pictures from that show, man. Rick Wayne and both him and Franco were both in great shape.
I remember when he was training at Gold's there around the same time. Tremendous, very vascular.
Yeah.
Veins all over his arms and shoulders. Very deep abs.
Yeah, really good abs. Real muscular. Yeah, real ripped.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised that Dave beat both of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense to Dave, but I mean, those guys were like a little more. Well, Dave was pretty. I guess it was because of his size.
Yeah.
Dave was much bigger. Both those guys were short.
Dave was in great shape that year, though, because at the NABBA Universe, which was a couple of weeks before that, he got third behind Reg Park. A lot of people thought he should have got second to Arnold because he was. Right. I guess he was in good condition. He was really vascular, real ripped.
Yeah, he was in good condition. So I guess now that I think he probably should have won that world.
Yeah.
He was in good shape. Yeah.
So you had Franco win the Universe, and then Dave Draper won the Mr. World. And then we go to the Mr. Olympia, and so that was the big showdown between Arnold and Sergio, and then Arnold turned the tables and he beat Sergio for the first time. Well, he beat him at the Mr. World, and then he beat him at the Mr. Olympia. So he dethroned the reigning Mr. Olympia.
Was that the famous Olympia where Arnold said, "Okay, it's all done. Let's leave the stage."
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah.
Acts like he's leaving the stage.
Yeah.
And leaves the stage too, and then Arnold comes back and starts posing, and the audience is going crazy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
He was backstage somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
Was that the show that
was
happened?
the show. Yeah. Yeah. You know, our friend Wayne Galash has a video or DVD or download now. It's probably a download, but it's called Arnold: The Early Years, and they actually have footage of that. They have a video footage. Of
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was a big
I don't think Arnold really had that planned. I think he really was. They didn't really do pose downs back then, or did they back then? When you saw that Mr. Olympia,
no pose.
I think that was one of the first actual pose downs they had with Arnold and Sergio.
That was one of the first.
And the crowd was going crazy. And I think when they were to the back, when they had their backs to the audience, Arnold said, "Hey, Sergio, I'm beat. Let's get out of here." You know. So then Sergio left, and everybody started booing. So then Arnold stopped, and then he's like, "Come on back. What are you doing?"
Yeah. You know, you see, the implication was that Sergio gave up.
Yeah, exactly.
So Arnold should win. You know what I mean? And that's the psychological message that was sent.
But looking at the pictures of that, I kind of think Arnold should have won because he was more cut than Sergio. Yeah. Sergio looked like way too smooth. He was bigger, but he was too smooth.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know how it is with Sergio. Sergio didn't believe in dieting.
Yeah.
He used to drink Coca-Cola and stuff like that all the way up to the show. And you know, he was just a genetic to look as good as he did, considering the way he ate was just phenomenal. And he's genetic freak. Nobody could get away with that.
Right.
But he did. I mean, I don't know what he did for that famous show in Essen when he did deserve to win the Olympia.
Yeah, he was in great shape for that.
73?
72. Yeah, 2 years later.
Yeah. I mean, he might have actually dieted for the show. I don't know. I think his son told me I think he did diet for the show for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Sergio told me that. But the thing is, could you imagine if this guy had really dieted and done? I mean, look what he did, what he produced, doing everything wrong.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, geez.
Well, when you look at pictures of Sergio from like when he was winning the Olympia in the '60s, the late '60s, he seemed like he was more muscular and cut then. It seemed like in the '70s he tried to get bigger and bigger, and he kind of lost that definition. He lost that quality, you know. Yeah,
but I'll tell you, he had some extraordinary the forearm and upper arm balance. I don't think anyone's ever exceeded that.
Yeah. Well, even now when I look at those pictures from that '70 Olympia, his size was so big, you know, especially for back then.
I know. I think that if Sergio was at his peak, let's say today, and he did what the guys today are doing as far as drugs and dieting, I think he'd beat all of them, including Phil Heath.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because if you look at Sergio's torso, I mean, he had the slabs of pectorals that Phil Heath is relatively weak in the chest compared to his shoulders.
Yeah.
Completely overshadowed. His arms and shoulders completely overshadow his chest.
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying it as it is. Where Sergio, he had the guys back then, like Arnold's, they had these slab-like pecs. They were like slabs.
Yeah.
Not many guys have that today, you know.
No.
If you take a guy like Sergio, and somehow you would have put him in his peak years, and he did everything right. He trained a little differently. He took the drugs the guys they take today, and he dieted. I think he'd be unbeatable today. I really believe that.
I do too.
Because you know what? He would look different. It wouldn't look like the Sergio we saw. It would be just a freak. Just imagine striations all over the place, but even bigger than he is.
Right.
And tiny waist.
Yeah.
Still those slab pecs, but now with cuts all over. Oh my God! Phil Heath would probably just scream and run off the stage.
Yeah. He probably wouldn't really blow out his waist that much because he had those tiny hip structure, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't think Sergio would have gotten that big.
No.
Because he had a little tiny waist, you know. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think he could even. He'd have to go out of his way to get the bloated.
Yeah, I don't think he'd get it if he wanted to.
Yeah, but it's as athlete. But on the other hand, if he dieted, his abs would have been really sharp and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Imagine that's what a look like Sergio Bray had deep abs and a little waist. Usually it's one or the other. Usually the guys with deep abs have wider waists.
Right.
Or the guys with very little, small waist have weak abs. It's
Right.
You rarely find both of them together. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a hell of a combination, boy. And that
Sergio had the legs too back then, which not many people had legs like that.
He had everything. I mean, the leg bicep, he had the sweep on the thighs, and big calves.
Yeah. Right.
Jeez, I mean, I could just imagine if this guy had was around today, younger, well, yeah, I guess you could say that Sergio Jr., but he approaches his father, but he doesn't have the.
He doesn't have the tiny waist.
Yeah, he doesn't. He said it himself.
Yeah.
One of the first conversations I had with Sergio Jr., I said, you have a lot of, because he has big forearms like his father and stuff. Mm-hmm. I said, I see a lot of your father's muscle shape in you. He says, yeah, but I never got that tiny waist he had. That's what he said himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and back then, you're going back to 1970, the guys weren't that big. I mean, Sergio was, now today everybo's big, but back then there was only like one Arnold, one Sergio. Yeah. They were the best,
You certainly didn't see guys on the stage at 5'10", weighing 280 pounds.
No.
It just wouldn't have. If a guy was like that, he'd be like so fat they'd have to wheel him out in a wheelbarrow.
I wonder if they had social media back then, like what the fans thought of Arnold beating Sergio that year.
That would have been interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a big turning point for Arnold. That was a big year for him. 1970 was his year. That
was the year that he, that changed. That's when Arnold became literally the king of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
That's when he took over. 1970.
1970 was such a big year. There was too much to cover. Yeah.
I know. You're right. That's true. Okay, John. Take care.
All right. You too, buddy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
This is John Hansen. I want to invite you personally to enter the second annual John Hansen Fitness Challenge, which is going to start on January 11th, 2021 and go all the way up until April 5th. This is a 12-week transformation program in which you will lose fat and gain muscle over this 12-week period. When you sign up for the John Hansen Fitness Challenge, I will write up a personalized workout and diet program specifically for you. In addition to that, I'm going to be your fitness coach for all 12 weeks. I will check in with you each week to make sure that you're accountable and you make progress every week during this fitness challenge. I'll also write up all new workouts for you every week. As an additional bonus, the top 3 people who make the most amount of progress are going to win prizes at the end of the fitness challenge. This includes free supplements from Old School Labs, as well as copies of my books and DVDs. As a 3-time Natural Mr. Universe and the first Natural Mr. Olympia winner, I have been training my whole life. I am an expert on how to change the body naturally without using any drugs. By following the workout and diet programs that I designed specifically for you, I guarantee you're going to make incredible progress in this 12 weeks. Check out some of these winners from last year's John Hansen Fitness Challenge. These guys completely changed their bodies by losing fat, gaining muscle, and building strength in only 3 months. If they can do it, I guarantee you can do it too. So go to johnhansenfitness.com and register for the second annual John Hansen Fitness Challenge today. Start off your new year right by changing your body and changing your life.